mountain, and I look down and see a world I was once underneath. I stand on this mountain and I look down. My mind knows more than it once knew. Then I knew. Then I knew. Then I knew. Then I knew. Now you're here. You're here. You're there. You're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be than found me see. Found me see. I climb down this mountain and I look around just to see that everyone used to be me. I climb down this mountain and I look around, my mind embracing more than the truth, than the truth, than the truth, than the truth, than the truth. Now you're here, you're here, you're there, you're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be. Found me sing. Found me sing. I once was blind, but now I see the beauty of the world before me. Now you're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be. Now you're here, you're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be than found me sing. Found me sing. Found me sing. Found me sing.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for coming in. Run through and say hello to everyone. We got our beautiful Mecky in here. We've got Pointer Lover. We'll pull everybody up. There is Mecky. Drifty's in here or was in here. Neil Homestead, thank you for stopping in. Pointer Lover. Hi, babe. We have Miss Barbara Hall. Much love and appreciation for everything you do. And we got Miss Marion Tate in here. Ace's mama. Sure I hit everybody. Hit everybody. Hopefully that wasn't as choppy on your guys' side as it was my side. For those of y'all that don't know, that is my best friend. His name is E-Rock. He is a musician, Grammy Award winner, owns a studio in Nashville. He was on American Idol, America's Top Model, not Top Model, shit, whatever that music thing was. He's also been featured on the Montel Show, and that is his song because he was found missing. He also has written a book. It is called I Called Him Jeremy. His story is early, way, way, way early on in my channel. And I do have full permission to use his music on here because he is a big supporter and an amazing human being. I did update the missing slides, so maybe we could get some faces on the YouTube screens that we don't normally see, along with those faces that we are all aware of and familiar with. So I hope everybody's having a beautiful Saturday. As you guys seen in the description there of the video, or the title, the description of the video does show that this will be used for fair use, and we're going to take a look at a couple different things. So as many of y'all know, that many of my cases that I do these pop-up lives for are brought to me by my beautiful subs, my community, because without you guys, I wouldn't be here. I'd just be some crazy lady with a laptop and a headset and just sit here and talking to myself. So I appreciate everybody that takes the time to come and listen and hear these stories. So I was reached out to by a local from this town, and she advised that this was a pretty crazy story and that it hadn't got any viewing or attention in a few years. So I definitely wanted to bring awareness to her case as well. Thank you so much. He's got some beautiful songs. He really does. But that one's my favorite. I had to mute myself so you guys wouldn't hear me singing along with it. He's an amazing person. He used to threaten to pull up in front of my job in the tour bus, and I was like, "Oh no, don't pull up in the tour bus." But yeah, so he's good people. He's amazing. Hopefully we'll get him on the show sometime. He's really cool. I've actually met Buck Cherry by knowing him, so it's very fortunate to have such a good friend. All right, so let's get into this story. So I got a few things I want to share with you guys. This first thing I'm going to share is it's going to be fair use. We're going to use a plan. Step it. Okay. Oh my goodness, something has already gone terribly wrong, y'all. Let's try that again. All right, there we go. Sorry, life happens live. All right, so we're going to share the screen. Okay, so some of these are really old videos. This one is from 14 years ago. And I pulled up these older videos because it's important to make sure that that we're seeing the beginning of the case and how the attention drops off of these cases, and it's almost non-existent. I think I saw Beckachu in here. Beckachu! Hello, my love. How have you been? All right, so we're going to play this video. Hopefully it's not chopped all to pieces.
That statement from Susan Metheny a year ago hopefully will come into play now after America's Most Wanted's airing of the story of what happened to her granddaughter, Melanie.
Melanie Metheny, a mother of two, vanished after dropping her children off at a West Virginia daycare. Call if you've seen her.
After the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department reported the case to AMW, they agreed it was a very
Technically, she's a mother
case,
of three.
and that's something Melanie's grandmother says she definitely agrees with.
There's people out there that know. I don't know how they lay down and go to sleep at night. I don't know how they can sleep.
At the end of the show, host John Walsh gave another recap of what happened to Melanie.
Melanie Metheny vanished after dropping her kids off at a daycare center in West Virginia.
And although there isn't a lot of information, heed the words of John Walsh.
Remember, you can make a difference.
All right, so that was a short clip. That was just to show that she was featured on America's Most Wanted. It was a really short clip, not much to it. Now, this is Danielle Halen. She is a huge YouTuber. And I will drop her link in the chat. This is also going to be used under fair use, but a lot of the information that she shares in here, I wasn't able to find the thread she was talking about. And I'm usually pretty good at finding threads. So this is her link. If you guys want to sub up, she's got over 600,000 subs over there, which is freaking amazing. I couldn't imagine having that many subs. But we're going to pull up her video because she has some really good information in here. And then we're going to look at some articles and things like that I gathered. So there's also a Facebook group I'll be sharing. Unlike some high profile cases, the Facebook group has very little people in it, and it's really heartbreaking. Okay, so we're going to make her big.
So today we are going to be speaking about the disappearance of 21-year-old Melanie Metheny, a mother of 3 from Bell, West Virginia. Now this case is very complicated because it seems that there was very minor and, according to the family, unsatisfactory police work that was done in the case. I will obviously show a few examples of that throughout my video. It was also closed relatively quickly. There was essentially no coverage on the case until America's Most Wanted was able to speak about it. And on
we
top
just
of
saw
that, the family seems to have done a lot of the research on their own. Authorities and the family have 2 entirely separate timelines. They somewhat
Okay, so we have Barbara Hall and Miss Marion Tate in chat, and they can tell you firsthand that these families that have to do their own investigating, it literally tears them down.
Follow each other, but the family seems to have found a lot more based on different witness accounts from those that knew Melanie and the area at the time. And so therefore there are very different ideas as to what exactly happened. Now, from my understanding, the case has been closed, but according to the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department, they claim that they work cases until they are solved, and her case is one of 2 still listed on their website. So I'm interested to see how this plays out, but unfortunately it seems like a lot has kind of gone silent over the past couple of years. So before I get into the entirety of this case, I need to thank NordVPN for partnering with me on today's video.
So we're gonna
So for those of you that are unfamiliar with NordVPN, they are an award-winning
we don't want to hear
to try to
Let's see if I can get right at the point past the plug, because
kind of allows you a way in. With the way that technology is moving, I think
we're not doing that.
Blindly trust putting onto our devices. So NordVPN also a Chrome browser extension. So thank you again to NordVPN for sponsoring today's video. And now
I tried to
script
that.
This case.
Sorry, guys.
So I'm going to try to explain this case in the best way that I possibly can. Now, because there is, information authorities have released, and there's information that the family has kind of released from their own findings, it can be a little bit confusing. I also noticed when I was going through the website that the family has created for Melanie, there is a comment section there where a lot of people, especially family members, seem to have put out a lot of information they have found. It kind of changed throughout the years, which made it difficult to follow. And also there are names involved that I didn't recognize, and it seemed more like a gathering area for locals that already knew these different rumors and backstories. So while I'm sure I'll miss a little bit of the information here just because I couldn't get a full understanding of it, feel free to go and check out that website and a couple other links that I have listed down below if you want somewhat of a better picture and understanding. Melanie was born on June 21st, 1985 to Jimmy and Debbie Metheny. I know that she had 2 brothers and eventually went on to have a half-sister, and they all grew up together in Bell, West Virginia. She was a very quiet and reserved child, and she remained that way as she got older. She attended Riverside High School, and around the age of 16, she ended up pregnant with her first son, Ryan. I don't know much about the relationship between Melanie and Ryan's father, Michael. I am assuming they weren't together for very long because she did have another son in 2 years, but there's just not a lot of information out there about that. So based on small bits and pieces that I've gathered, it was just a regular civil relationship after they had Ryan. At this point, after leaving Riverside High School, Melanie went on to attend Garnet County Career Center for their adult education program. Her goal was to basically take as many classes as she possibly could so that she could enroll and be accepted into West Virginia University.
So what you're going to hear is this is a woman that was full of life, that loved her life, loved her children, and would not have just poof, vanished, be gone. That's not something that I got from this story. I got that this was another act of someone took it upon themselves to abduct this woman and possibly allegedly take her life, which was not theirs to take. So again, thank you guys for being here. Hopefully it's not too terribly choppy of service. I am outside with the littles because it's finally the sun has went behind the clouds, so I'm letting them kind of have some outside time, and then we will get back into the studio once they get to where they're not happy with being out here anymore.
Dream was to be a nurse. She wanted to attend nursing school. I believe she actually wanted to work in pediatrics specifically. Within a year or so of having Ryan, Melanie ended up meeting another man named Matthew Harper, and they went on to have a son named Nathan and a daughter named Hannah. And she was working hard at school. I believe she also may have had a job. And so to make things easier on the couple, they lived with Matthew's parents. I don't know the name of his father, but I do know his mother was Donna Harper, and this is someone that Melanie seemed to be incredibly close with. But this situation made it a lot easier on them. She was able to continue going to school and continue working. She was saving, hoping to have a house of her own. So it was a positive situation. But unfortunately, about 6 months prior to her disappearance, so roughly in December of 2005, Melanie left Matthew for reasons I do not know. Now, because she had relied on living with Matthew and his parents, this was kind of a tricky situation. She had 2 children that she was taking with her. From my understanding, she basically had sole custody of the children. I don't know if it was anything legally agreed upon. I do know that she would obviously always let the children see their father if they wanted to, and she would frequently make trips to see Donna Harper and let her grandchildren be with her. But she needed someone more stable to live with her children fast. She ended up moving to a home on Midland Avenue in Bell, West Virginia with her 2 brothers and her half-sister, Stephanie. So at this point, that's where she's living with Nathan and Hannah. From my understanding, at this point in time, Ryan was spending most of his time with his father. But at this point, Melanie continued to balance work. She continued to balance school and being a full-time single mom, putting away cash for a better life with this huge end goal of having a house big enough that was all her own, that she could have all of her children there with her under one roof. She maintained good relationships, again, from all accounts that I have personally seen, with the fathers of her children, with their families. Like I said, she would frequently stop by the grandparents' houses. And then along the way, in March of 2006, she ended up meeting a man named Jared. So I've seen that this person's name is Jared, and I've also seen Jarrett. Honestly, I've seen both of them so frequently that I am not even positive which one is correct. But apparently they hit it off. He was also a single father, so that's one thing that they had in common. He did have a 9-year-old girl that he at least had partial custody of. Her name is Harley, and I guess that's one of the largest reasons they really got along together. And according to comments I've seen on the family's website, one of her half-sister's close friends is kind of the one that introduced them. It seemed like almost like a matchmaking situation, again, just from comments that I've read. So pretty quickly, Melanie started spending more and more time with Jared, and eventually she started to live part-time with him on Campbell's Creek Drive in Charleston, West Virginia. And I will have a map up of the whole area, the whole county. It's basically a cluster of tiny towns, all within pretty close distance of each other. I think getting from one Bell to like 2 towns over, if not more than that, was only about 30 to 45 minutes. So just a small area. I don't know too much about her relationship with Jared. We're only together a couple of months. She met him in March and she went missing by July. So I don't really have much to say about this relationship. And this brings us to Melanie's disappearance. So on Wednesday, July 19th, 2006, Ryan was with his dad, as he typically was during this time period. So Melanie woke up. She had been at the home on Campbell's Creek Drive, so where Jared lived, and she took Nathan and Hannah to Country Kids Daycare in the 3000 block of East DuPont Avenue in Bell. She dropped the kids off around 8. I've seen 8 to 8:20 roughly, but she never showed up to pick them back up by closing time at 6. Now, the staff at Country Kids Daycare immediately were shocked by this because Melanie had been taking the kids there, from my understanding, for roughly a year. This had never happened before. She was always very pleasant with the staff. Her kids.
Sorry, Ace's mama. She, like I said, I get out of her sight and she's like, oh no, you did not go in the house. But I went in to grab the phone because I never know when one of my boys is going to call me. So this is an important part of this story. She dropped her kids off at daycare, and you're going to hear that the daycare staff actually saw her. They interacted with her. So she definitely was seen at the daycare.
Kids always appeared very well taken care of. She always communicated with the staff, and she was never late to pick them up. So they attempted to call Melanie a handful of times, and when she didn't answer, they decided to call the kids' paternal grandmother, Donna Harper. Now, when Donna answered the phone, she also was absolutely shocked. She agreed to pick up the kids and take care of them, and also called Melanie's father, Jimmy, and her grandmother, Sandra. So just like Donna, they were equally as shocked. Like I said, she was a very dedicated mother, and this was entirely out of character for her. While Donna went to pick up the kids, both Jimmy and Sandra decided to head to Jared's home on Campbell's Creek Drive to ask if he knew where Melanie was. And according to different comments that I've seen on the family's page, like on the page for Melanie, the website, people kind of had some odd feeling like something was wrong prior to her disappearance. So maybe that's why they so instantly went to ask Jared where she was or if he knew anything. Now, according to Sandra, when they arrived, Melanie's car was not outside of the home. And when Jared opened the door and they informed him that Melanie didn't pick up the kids, he did seem shocked, but he didn't at all seem concerned in their opinion. This was obviously already odd that he didn't seem too concerned about the situation, but it was even stranger to them when they asked if he would come out with other family members to search for her, and he outright refused. I have seen some sources state that he claimed to have called Melanie around noon that day. According to the sources, Jared stated that by this point in time, she typically would have contacted him, and when she didn't, he contacted her. I don't know what further steps he took, but I also would assume that would mean he would have been more concerned later on that afternoon, and that just wasn't what Sandra and Jimmy picked up on. So at this point, Melanie was reported as a missing person to the police and was immediately labeled a missing and endangered individual. And the family hit the ground running. Started to search over town all night. They were searching for Melanie's gold minivan. I believe it was a 1998 minivan. They were looking at all the different spots you could go to, but they had absolutely no.
Absolutely. Ace's mama, very sus, like right off rip. Just not even, I mean, like Arctic would say, math ain't mathin'.
Luck. Authorities also began their searches, and they also started to look into every possibility of what may have happened to Melanie. Now, obviously, one of the first things they had to consider was how possible it was that Melanie would walk off, willingly, that she would, maybe want to escape from her life. And maybe they were thinking she's a single mom. That can be difficult. She has 3 children. She's bounced around from house to house. Maybe she just wanted to escape it all. But according to quite literally everyone that knew Melanie, and this includes the fathers of her children, the paternal, families of her children, they all strongly disagreed that Melanie would ever walk away from her children. Period. Every single day, Melanie essentially lived for her children. All of the goals that she had was to better the lives of her children. And she was so close to achieving that. She had been accepted into the West Virginia University. She was starting classes August 2nd to progress in her nursing career. She had been saving money. She was hoping to get a house soon. So everything was falling in line. And there seemed to be no reason she would want to just run away and drop all of this. So this was, for the most part, kind of ruled out. And they decided to start working on a timeline, figure out what her plans were that day to maybe see if anything had gone wrong along the way. So according to Jared, he woke up at around 7 a.m. that morning, and Melanie was already up and getting all of the kids dressed and ready to go, and was essentially out of the door by 7:15 to 7:20. According to Melanie's family, this was one of the largest red flags. Melanie was not a morning person, especially in the summer when she didn't have to be, and it didn't make sense that she would be up and awake that early and getting all of the kids ready to head out of the door when this was not something that she had ever really done before. Jared also stated that Melanie mentioned going to Garnet Career Center to pick up her transcripts because she had upcoming classes and things that she needed to deal with when it comes to West Virginia University. However, the family also thought that was strange because she had already sent in her transcripts. Typically, when you are applying at a college or any university, period, you have to give them your transcripts as part of the process. So she was already scheduled. She was already going to start on the 2nd. It means that the university already had her transcripts, and it didn't make sense that she would need to go pick them up again. So as I stated, she ended up leaving the house sometime likely between 7:15, 7:20-ish, and she had Nathan, Hannah, and Jared's daughter, Harley, 9-year-old Harley, in tow. Authorities were able to find that she took Harley to her grandparents' house off of Dry Branch. According to Harley's grandparents, I'm assuming this is where authorities got the info.
Okay, so that's why I have it listed as mom of 3, because even though it wasn't her blood child, it was still her child. She was still a mom.
Information from, and some of Jared's siblings. Melanie stayed there for a few minutes when she was dropping off Harley. She spoke with the family a little bit. I know that one of Jared's siblings was planning on going to a water park that day, and she wanted to take Harley with her. I do know that Melanie offered to go back to the apartment to get a bathing suit for Harley, but this was shrugged off because they would just figure it out. So according to those that she saw, she seemed in a fine mood. She didn't seem in any rush because she was willing to drive all the way back to the apartment to get a bathing suit. And she also to them mentioned needing to go to Garnet County Career Center to pick up these papers papers, these transcripts. After this, she headed off again. So authorities believe she then went 10 miles away to drop both Nathan and Hannah off at the Country Kids daycare, which is where she left them and never picked them up from. They were apparently able to confirm with staff that she did in fact bring her children in. They were able to confirm it was sometime between 8 and 8:20. So it took her about an hour so far for this whole trip. And they also told authorities that she planned to get transcripts as well. So she essentially had, told everyone the same story according to what authorities have stated they found, and that she would be back by noon to pick up the kids. So she didn't intend to be gone for too terribly long, only a handful of hours. From this point on, things are really kind of a blur for everyone. No one really has any answers after this point. It should have taken roughly 18 minutes for Melanie to get from the daycare center to Garnet Career Center. But according to Garnet Career Center, Melanie never showed up. She also never showed up to West Virginia University to hand off the transcripts like she said she was going to do, but cell records did indicate that she was doing something at around 9 in the morning, so about 45-ish minutes after she dropped the kids off. At 9 o'clock, a call was made from Melanie's phone to a repair shop called Recommended. I've seen a handful of different pieces of information in regards to this. I've seen that she already had her car fixed. I've also seen that she was just confirming an appointment. I'm honestly not sure which way that this goes. I wasn't able to confirm through different resources, but apparently a month prior, a teenage boy had stolen her van, and it was eventually returned to her. There was minor damage that had to be taken care of, and this shop was either where she already had the repairs made or was going to be where she was going to have the repairs made. I don't know everything about the incident with this teenage boy. I've seen some comments on the website state that they'd worked out a deal in order to not involve cops. He was just going to pay for it, and they were going to drop it after that. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, authorities claim that they spoke to individuals that were at Recommended, and the person that took the phone call was able.
Okay, so Ace's mama, this is completely my speculation, but Mr. Monster's family is actually from this area. Like, he has family that lives in Charlestown, and it is a drug-infested area. So I can't help but wonder if the little girl's bio mom was inexistent, not in her life, because dad had her.
To confirm the voice on the other end of the line was in fact Melanie. The family believes that this wasn't actually confirmed, and so if Melanie was the one that made this call is kind of up in the air, at least in the family's eyes. 30 minutes later, there was a second phone call to Melanie's voicemail, which obviously is not something that can be confirmed. But we do know they were at least roughly in the same area. And also, according to what the family has stated, I don't know if they have proof of this or if this is just speculation, but they believe this phone call was made to her voicemail to delete all of the messages inside. Now, the interesting thing about both of these calls, the calls to Recommended as well as the calls to the voicemail, is that they were both from kind of the same location. And the cell towers they came off of were from an area in West End, which is the farthest west side of Kanawha County where this all occurred, possibly into the neighboring Putnam County. This is 20 minutes past Garnet County Career Center. So it would have taken 18 minutes to get to the Career Center and then another 20 minutes to get to the location where her phone was used at 9, which would indicate if it was her, she immediately drove all the way over to the west side past the place she claimed to need to go that day, and no one has any idea why she would have gone over there. When the family was alerted of this information, they were immediately taken back because the West End is, according to authorities and the family, not necessarily the best place to go. It is known for drug and criminal activity, and it is not somewhere that she would have gone by herself or just gone in general. This obviously brought up a lot of questions in regards of drugs, and could she have gone there to buy drugs? And according to the family, she obviously was 21 years old. She would occasionally drink. She would occasionally socially use drugs, but from what I've seen said by those that knew her, she did not use hard drugs, and she definitely wouldn't have gone in the middle of a Wednesday morning to go pick up drugs from the West End. This just wasn't, this wasn't her character. At this point, they have Melanie stating to numerous people she's going to pick up transcripts that the family says, she wouldn't have needed to get. She never actually stopped at the location she told everyone she was going to. She drove way past it to an area that she wouldn't typically go to. So there was obviously something strange going on here. So authorities started to question other individuals, and inconsistent stories began to come out. And I do want to state that some bits and pieces of what I'm going to tell you did come out years later. Just again, I'm not sure which pieces because authorities haven't reported a lot on this, and there's not a ton of specifics out there.
And sadly, there's not a ton of stuff that you can find on this later on in the live. Once she gets done here, we're going to look at the Charlie Project. I have a document that we're going to look at that was put out by the police department. And then I'm going to show you guys their phenomenal website and what the local police department has on their website.
So just know this is PC information that kind of unveiled itself in a matter of years. So the days leading up to Melanie's disappearance are a blur, and no one seems to know exactly what she was doing. And this is something that confused me for a very long time until I really got into the comment section on that website. So, according to Sandra, she watched all 3 of the children the night of the 17th into the 18th. And I believe it was so Jared and Melanie could go out on a date. I believe they went to the movies and had some dinner. The following morning, she dropped the kids off at around 9 and only spoke to Melanie for a few minutes before leaving. And I don't know what she stated her demeanor was at this point, but I'm assuming it was just normal. And she didn't suspect anything was wrong, because I think if she did, she likely would have said something. And this is where it gets kind of funky. So after this point, the day before Melanie disappeared, what she did is really up in the air. And I'll explain why in a minute. But Jared was believed to be at work this day, and she
Welcome
spent
in,
the
honey.
day with just her kids. I believe Harley maybe was somewhere else. Maybe she was with her grandparents. I'm unsure. But she spent the day with her kids, her half sister, Stephanie, and Stephanie's friend named Chris. And Chris is the one that apparently introduced Jared and Melanie, or at least played a big role in matchmaking them. Now, versions of this day have repeatedly changed, and these are the different versions that have kind of been put out there. So, it's believed that at some point during this day, they may have gone to a nearby park all together, and then they eventually made their way back to Jared's home on Campbell's Creek Drive. At some point during the day, Chris's boyfriend also stopped by and hung out for a little bit, and then I think eventually he left. And then at around 7 p.m., Melanie took both Chris and Stephanie, drove them from the Campbell's Creek apartment to their separate homes. Obviously, Stephanie went to her home on Midland Avenue, and then Chris went to her home. I don't know exactly where that was. Other versions of this event state that they never went to this park during the day.
Welcome in,
It's
honey.
just believed they possibly may have been there. There are also claims that they never actually went to the Campbell's Creek Drive house, and that they went to Chris's house instead. And there's claims that Melanie never drove anyone anywhere, drove anyone home. She left from Chris's house by, herself with just her children.
Welcome in,
And
Peggy.
I couldn't figure out for the longest time why none of this made sense and how they didn't know this, how authorities couldn't confirm exactly what happened this day. From the bits and pieces that the family have released on the website, what they have said is that both of these individuals have been shielded from the investigation from some way for one reason or another, that they've either never been asked to speak, or authorities have just pushed them to the side. And they've also stated that both of them, shortly after it's believed Melanie was abducted, were strong-armed and essentially beaten into staying quiet by someone. So this would explain why there's
Okay, this is where it's gonna get kind of a little squishy. Is you're gonna see why she's got this as vanishes in a town with secrets. This is a small town, and not only that, if you've ever been to West Virginia, the terrain is not a friendly terrain.
There's no real knowledge why neither of them really have come forward to say anything. And I believe it may be even deeper than that. And I don't know exactly what the family is thinking. So one thing that's for sure, though, is that something was going on with Melanie that day, because one thing the family knows is that Melanie repeatedly asked both Stephanie and Chris that day to stay with her the day of the 19th, the day that she disappeared. She, according to what I know, she never specified why she wanted someone to accompany on her errands that day. But what I do know is that she was adamant. She repeatedly asked both of them to come with her. I don't know if either of them ever agreed to this. There's thoughts that maybe her half sister agreed to it, but no one really knows. Again, all of this is up in the air, and the family believes it's because these women were forced into being quiet. But this put up another pretty big red flag, because it makes it seem like Melanie was really worried about something the day that she went missing. When you add that to the fact that she told everyone she came in contact with what she planned on doing that day. Maybe she was just an overshare, but she told quite literally everyone what she was doing, that she was going to this Garnet County Career Center. And then you also add that to the fact that she changed her pattern that day by waking up hours earlier than she typically would. It really makes you wonder why she did all these things. Was she hiding from someone? Did someone threaten to find her somewhere along her day? At this point, authorities started to look into the idea that maybe someone had some sort of issue with Melanie that may have led to something happening. We already know that someone basically took her van and took it on a joyride, a local teenager. But there also was another incident with this individual a week prior to her disappearance. A teenager that stole Melanie's van ran into her in the street while she was out with one of her friends, and they apparently really got into it. According to those that knew Melanie, this was very out of character for her. She was She was not the kind of person that wanted to have issues with people. She was not confrontational. Again, from what I'm understanding, they, were already either, making moves towards fixing her car. It already had been fixed. So it seems strange that she would see this guy on the street and again kind of go after him. Apparently, after walking away from this argument, the teenager picked up a large rock and was about to throw it at Melanie.
We are watching Danielle Halen. A local and a sub actually sent this case to me and referred me to this video. That she is a very large creator. 600 and I don't remember how many, 671,000 subs, I think is what she's got. Let's see. But she did some great information on here. 673,000 subs. She's actually got Caleb pinned on her page. Oh, I did not mean to hit that. She's got like some great content over here, guys, and I'll drop her link again in the chat. Definitely go over and sub up. Big channel, small channel. We support everybody. Everybody up in here. Let's see. Did you hear about a 17-year-old trafficking victim that was rescued here in South Carolina? She texted 911. I guess she was took. Oh, wow. No, I hadn't heard that. Ace's mama, thank you. Wow. That's always just heartwarming when they're found.
When her friend saw this, warned her about it. So she turned around, he put the rock down and ran off. And this is definitely odd behavior. It's even odd behavior on Melanie's part because everyone that knew her said that she was not a problematic person. She didn't want to start.
Oh, my bad. Southern Cali.
But it didn't to authorities seem like something that would end in Melanie disappearing. I personally wonder if it was something deeper. Was there a larger reason that this teenager came for her van and that's why she was holding this grudge against him? Did they know each other? I have all these different questions. It just makes me very curious. Also, because she called the repair shop right before everything kind of went silent. So at this point,
I don't even know where South Carolina came from. Good Lord, I must have South Carolina on the mind, y'all. And plus, I'm out here in the sun, so I'm going to use that as my excuse. Thank you, though. California. Let me just let the video play. Drink my coffee.
They didn't believe she ran off on her own. She also didn't really have issues with individuals. So, it didn't make sense that something would lead to her disappearance. At least that's what authorities were sharing with the public. So authorities at this point said that they didn't believe she ran off with anyone. They couldn't find any reason that someone had an issue with her that was large enough that may have ended in her disappearance. Also, according to what everyone knew, there weren't really any issues between Melanie and the father of her children and their families. But then authorities started to receive some very frightening tips. And this one is kind of a very interesting one to me. And there's a lot more information on this on the website and the comment section. But when this was initially announced by authorities, they didn't state what the tip was. They didn't say who the tip came from. And I kind of understand why now. So apparently this tip came in from Melanie's ex-boyfriend and the father of both Nathan and Hannah. So this would have been Matthew. Matthew, sometime between 4 and 6, I've seen both of those times. This was the day that Melanie went missing. He was at his job. He worked at a company called Airgas, which was in the West End. He was outside that day when he noticed a red SUV kind of parked somewhere across the street. And he immediately noticed that there was obvious commotion coming from this vehicle. There was a blonde woman inside the car that appeared to be struggling desperately to get out of the vehicle. She kept repeatedly being pulled back into it. And he specifically remembered one point where this woman screamed out, "What about my babies?" before being pulled back into the car ultimately. Now, this was not immediately called into authorities. I know that a lot of people question this. First of all, he wasn't aware at this point that she had never shown up to pick up the kids. He had no reason to believe that this was Melanie. He said that the voice did sound like her, but I feel like most people wouldn't jump to the absolute worst conclusion right away. But when it comes to just calling the authorities in general on this, I know that a lot of bystanders are sometimes hesitant to report situations like this, unfortunately, and especially with it being the area it was where crimes and drugs run rampant. I'm sure they see odd things all the time. So maybe they just got desensitized to it. And that's why he didn't call in. But I do know, again.
Right. And guys, we stress that if you see something, say something, especially if you see a woman getting drugged into a vehicle. Right. Fox off, definitely. If you see a woman getting drugged forcibly into a vehicle, please call law enforcement. Call Crime Stoppers. Call 911. Do it anonymously if nothing else. At the end of this video, you guys, it's going to take a twist too.
According to the comments, that at some point kind of a connection was made. I do believe he at least called Sandra, because Sandra, the grandmother, ended up coming back out to that location and was able to get a partial of the vehicle. Now, the partial either read 9EY735 or 7EY935. But apparently, when Sandra went to pull this partial off of this red SUV that was believed to be the car that she was in, a big angry male came outside and basically scared her off. Now, according to what authorities released, there were a handful of other individuals that called about a red SUV. I don't know how many of them were confirmed to potentially be the same SUV. There was, I believe 1 or 2 individuals calling about a messed up looking woman that was being held inside of a red car. It matches up enough to, in my opinion, indicate that there's a huge chance that Melanie was in fact the one in the car that day. Between that and her phone kind of pinging for the last time in the West End, it was questionable. So authorities decided to try to figure out if they could locate this red SUV. I believe it was a Ford in specific, and they ran these different partial plate numbers and everything, and apparently got absolutely nothing back. So despite all of these potential tips, really nothing came from it. A few tips came in after this, leading authorities to yet another area called Witcher Creek, which is about 15 minutes in the opposite direction, kind of heading east from the daycare. Now, I'm unsure what exactly these tips were. I have never seen it mentioned in any of my research, but it was obviously enough to have authorities show up full force. They had canine units, rescue crews, people on foot, and they searched the entire area until 1 a.m. before calling it off. And from their language, I don't even believe it was just one tip, but numerous tips that led them to this location. But unfortunately, they weren't able to find anything. So they were back to square one until July 23rd,
Get the
which
plate
was she
number.
went missing on a Wednesday. This was the following Sunday when Melanie's tan 1998 Chevy Gold van was located. The van had been abandoned in an intersection of Wyoming Street and Buring Avenue in Charleston, West Virginia, which was about 6 minutes away from the Career Center. And I believe only like 5 minutes further west would have been where Matthew spotted this red SUV. So according to the information we have, we know she was at the daycare, and then this phone call that possibly could have been her was found in the West End, and the car was somewhere in the middle of that, which to me either indicates A, someone knew what her plans were that day, meaning that someone that may have taken her was close to her and knew to kind of like drop the car that way and make it appear as if she had just abandoned it or something happened along the way, or she had tried to head back herself to the Career Center and something happened along the way. The neighbors claim the van had been there since around 2 p.m. the day that Melanie went missing. And since the neighbors were obviously that observant, I find it hard to believe that something could have happened to Melanie right there where she had a struggle with someone and nobody saw it. It was in a very populated residential neighborhood. The neighbor said that they originally didn't connect it to the disappearance, but when one neighbor finally connected the dots, they decided to call it in. The van itself was locked. It appeared properly parked on the side of the road, again, almost as if she just took her belongings and got out of it. There was no new damage on the vehicle. You could still see some of her personal belongings on the inside. I know one of her CD players, a few of her favorite CDs, her camera was in there. There was paperwork for her WIC cards, the women, infant, and children's. But her purse, her phone, her ID, her bank cards, everything like that was missing from the vehicle. Again, as if she just kind of grabbed her purse and left. It didn't appear like there was ever a struggle in the car. They did, in fact, find a Bell police officer business card in the front seat. That was apparently linked to a prior, obviously unrelated incident, but there was a piece of paper inside of the car with a phone number and a note about a house that was, I believe, for sale in St. Albans, which is on the west side, like very, very west, almost leaving Kanawha County into Putnam. So this makes me wonder if maybe she had gone to the West End willingly only to look at this house and then maybe was trying to drive back to, the Career Center when something may have happened to her and then her car was just dumped nearby. But again, there's such little information that it's really hard to piece anything together. So authorities decided to bring this van in to test it forensically to see if they could have any answers at all. And they were shocked to find that the car had been wiped clean of prints. There was nothing at all in the car that was of any forensic value. So at this point, they really had nothing. They had an abandoned car with no evidence at all to point what happened to her, where.
Gerald, welcome in. Ace's mama says same thing. Josefina Sonia Saldana from Fresco, California. If someone would have just called Ellie when the altercation happened in a fast food drive-thru, she may have been saved. See, you're fine, honey. You're fine. I stay behind. Right?
Melanie had been taken, who may have taken her. She certainly wouldn't have parked her car on the side of the road and then wiped her own fingerprints off of it. So clearly this indicates someone else likely was involved. They had evidence of her kind of driving, from Bell, Charleston, West End. She's kind of all over the place. We have these different SUV sightings, but nothing seemed to be working out and everything seemed to be going to dead ends. So they were pretty much stuck. So this is when I believe Melanie's family started to create their own timeline. Authorities failed to question a lot of some of the last people that spoke to Melanie. According to a comment that was left on the Find Melanie website, some people weren't questioned in Jared's family until 2011. So we're talking years later. So I don't think they questioned Harley. Granted, she
And this happened in 2006.
was a minor, and I don't believe her family was allowing this for numerous reasons. But again, some of the last people to be with her and see her and be able to speak about, maybe her demeanor or what she was saying her plans were to them. It was also strange to the family because days after Melanie disappeared, her half-sister, Stephanie, that she was close to, that she had asked to help her that day, that couldn't give a straight story about what exactly they did that day or what she was even doing by herself that night. She ended up moving out of the state days later. And she, from my understanding, never gave a reason as to why. And this obviously looks very suspicious, especially when statements were kind of so inconsistent. And I think it even took years for a lot of those statements to come out. The family was also worried because of Jared's behavior. They didn't know him very well. They'd only been together for a couple of months, thanks to someone that couldn't even consistently say what they did with Melanie the day prior to her disappearance. Jared seemed to have no interest in coming to help search for her. Family really started kind of pushing authorities and trying to get answers from them. And they seemed to just be ignoring the case, ignoring important people that they needed to speak to. I know that the family at one point even asked them to send the case over to the FBI, and they didn't want to do that. I know the family also hired numerous private investigators, went ahead and paid them lots of money up front, and then the private investigators would start working on the case and then immediately be scared off by local law enforcement. I think particularly it was Kanawha County Sheriff's Department to the family, because authorities seem to be kind of skating around certain people and information. Those same people have either left town or just have stopped speaking to everyone. I know that a lot of other people that Melanie met or became friends with after meeting Jared or just involved with Jared also kind of fell off the map. According to the family, people would return back to town totally like incognito. They would slide in without letting anyone know they were there, and then they would be gone again. And it's obviously sketchy behavior. And if this was you and your loved one, you would probably feel the same way. So that's why they started looking into things on their own and going around and questioning a lot of people. And they were able to unearth a lot, which gave them an entirely different timeline and perspective on the case. So according to the timeline, and again, I've seen a few different versions of this as time has gone on, and they've kind of tweaked it. So I'm going to try to explain this the best that I can. But again, things seem to have changed quite frequently. But they believe that she still left home sometime between 7:15 and 7:30 in the morning, but still believe this is very out of character and is still a pretty big red flag. According to the family, it's possible that go and drop Harley off at Dry Branch and then immediately went to her Midland Avenue apartment she shared with her brother and her half-sister, or she may have possibly skipped Dry Branch and gone straight to
that's
Midland
terrible.
Avenue. The reason they believe this is because a neighbor spotted Melanie at 7:40 a.m., which is about the time it would take to go from Campbell's Creek Drive to Midland Avenue, and they had a conversation. She was heading to this apartment, possibly to go knock on the door. She clearly wanted to speak to someone that was there. She may have wanted to get something. No one's really sure. And this neighbor was walking up the steps when Melanie kind of waved them down. And they had a brief conversation. They apparently spoke about why Hannah, was given the name Hannah. And, I don't know what her demeanor was, but at 7:40 in the morning, this neighbor puts her at the Midland Avenue.
I never hear my
also
name.
stated they saw 3 kids in the car, which is why there's this question about when exactly Harley was dropped off. So if Harley hadn't been dropped off first, I think they believe at this point she went and dropped Harley off and then came back to Bell, where she stopped at a local 7-Eleven on DuPont where the daycare was, I believe, just down the road. Cashier there vividly remembered Melanie coming in that morning. She would always park her car at like the very front parking spot so she wouldn't leave her kids unattended for very long. And she came in and bought 2 drinks for the kids and then got back in the car and left. And at this point, it is believed that she, for the second time that morning, drove back to Midland Avenue.
What is true?
Because
Welcome
a
in.
witness that knew her, again, was very familiar with her, saw her almost make it to
Welcome
Midland
in, love.
Avenue,
Thank you for
but then
being
randomly
here.
just bang a U-turn and head back the direction of the daycare, which a lot of people question, why did she do that? Was, did she see someone that she wanted to turn around from and go the opposite direction from?
Yep, law enforcement doesn't like PIs in a lot of cases, and they also don't like the family requesting the FBI to be brought in. Because, a lot of especially in these small towns, you have your good old boy law going on, and they don't want the FBI dipping in their Kool-Aid.
Obviously, there's a lot of questions up in the air here. So this would bring us to between 8 and 8:20, and at this point, she dropped the children off at the daycare center again. This has been confirmed already also through authorities, but the family has stated that the individuals at the daycare center also said that they saw 3 kids in the car. So there's also another possibility that Harley hadn't even been dropped off yet. And instead, after the daycare center, Harley was dropped off last, meaning that there's just a bunch of bouncing around here that didn't make a lot of sense. And it's believed that it was maybe because she was worried, again, something was going to happen and wanted to have one of like the older children there with her for most of the time. There are certain times where they have specifically placed things as if they knew for a fact based off of information, but because there's so many different versions, I kind of wanted to give it all. However, over the years, Harley and other family members have come forward. So someone at least claiming to be Harley came forward on the website in the comments section and said that she was immediately dropped off by Melanie that morning. It was the first stop that they made that day. And she seemed very upset that anyone would kind of question that her father could potentially be involved, which again was just kind of one of the rumors. Obviously, that's going to happen when you decline to search for someone that you are in a relationship with and living with, because that is suspicious behavior. But she was very adamant that her father loved Melanie, wouldn't have.
Exactly. Very suspicious behavior. How are you not going to search for somebody that you're supposed to be in a relationship with? Unless, like Miss Barbara said, you don't search for somebody when you know where they're at.
Done anything, that she was not taken around this crazy ride all around Belle, and that she was in fact immediately dropped off at Dry Branch. A few hours after this comment was made, another family member or person claiming to be Jared's younger sister, it's hard to tell who exactly these people are and if they are who they say they are, just because it's a random, comment board. But this person said they were Jared's little sister. They were there at the time, and that it was early when Harley was dropped off, that she was immediately dropped off and not taken to Belle. This person was able to confirm the entire water park story. So the family's kind of timeline is argued with quite a bit by Jared's family, it seems. And that's where a lot of tension really comes into play. I know that a lot of Melanie's family and different individuals close to Melanie really were frustrated. I believe Harley wasn't questioned for an extended
I'm over here talking. I'm on mute. So I'm pulling up the copyright disclaimer while I go through chat, just because this is being used under fair use. Yes, my email should be right below your comment, right below Miss Barbara. Yes, they got mad at me. They call it the good old boy system. Exactly. Right here's my email. truecrimewithsunshine@yahoo.com. You are welcome to reach out to me anytime. Salty, welcome in, my love. Hope you're doing well today. Yeah, this whole case is just, it is all over the place. It's one of those messy cases where, you got so many players in this case. And like I said, towards the end of this video, it's going to take a twist, and it made me scratch my head. Like, how many times have we been looking at a case and you have that head scratcher moment where you're like, And I've got some other stuff pulled up here that we're going to look at too, but her video was so informative. And like I said, the local and subscriber, and I don't know if she emailed me under a YouTube email or if she emailed me under her name. But if you are here or listening on Replay Crew, thank you so much for bringing this case to my attention. And I don't want to use your name because I don't know if that's your real name or if that is your YouTube tag as well. So much love and appreciation for bringing this case back to light, because that's what we do here. We are seeking the light in the darkness and trying to bring awareness to some of these cases that don't get the awareness and views that other cases might, that bring those clicks and views.
Extended period of time. And according to this comment section, if Jared's little sister, if this was in fact her, she admits right here the first time she was ever spoken to by police was April 12th, 2011. So there were a lot of issues here. And according to the family, the children were spoken to. Obviously, Hannah was going to be 2 at the time. She was almost 2, so she was too young to really remember a lot of things. And Nathan was, I believe, almost 4 or just barely 4. And he had repeatedly told the family many times that Harley was in the car until the time they were dropped off at daycare, or just some extended time, that she was not immediately dropped off. The family has stated that they had that statement from Nathan, checked by an outsider, by a third party. It was confirmed that this was in fact what he saw and what he remembered. And so they believed it was possible that for some reason, possibly related to the disappearance of Melanie, that Harley was coached into giving a certain version of the events. I understand why the family would feel this way. There were so many people that started to come out of the woodworks, people that never helped lift a finger to search for Melanie, but also claimed to be her good friend, didn't say anything for years, and then would come out and kind of poke at a rumor for a minute and then disappear again. And so it just felt like everyone knew something that they didn't know. But again, Harley remained very adamant that she wasn't hiding anything and that no one coached her to say anything, that she was dropped off. Her father wouldn't have had anything to do with Melanie's disappearance. So for a while, it really turned into a pretty large just finger pointing situation. In the comment section, there were other names that were dropped, individuals that I've not seen as being a part of this disappearance. It just seems like most of the information in this case is all started by just rumors that are spread by locals and people talking. And it's unfortunate because I feel like had the media kind of covered this differently and had police done further police work on it, a lot of these different rumors probably could have been squashed very easily. But when you leave the family and the few people involved are having their names questioned to deal with these situations and hash things out on their own, no wonder it turns into a situation like this. The family just kept releasing their own information.
Exactly. And I know we've discussed this recently. I back the blue 100% when they do their jobs and do what they're supposed to do. But when they don't do their jobs, don't do what they're supposed to do. And a lot of people, they go hard for mainstream media, but mainstream media is only allowed to report what the police department approves them to report on, unless you have a rogue like Fox that reports what the hell they want. Or you have TMZ that reports everything.
They found that, for instance, they had some reason to believe that the police actually knew where Melanie's car was the afternoon that she went missing, but for some reason they didn't show up to get it until the following Sunday. I also know that the only large platform her case has really ever been on was America's Most Wanted. And according to them, they tried for 18 months to speak to the Kanawha County Sheriff's Department. And the Sheriff's Department basically refused or tried to postpone it for 18 months, claiming they just missed their call repeatedly, but then never actually got back to them with any information. And it made the family wonder, why? Why don't you want to hand this over to the FBI? Why don't you want America's Most Wanted to speak about this case? Why don't you want our PIs working on it to try to help you solve the case? It just seemed weird. And then it became even more frustrating because the neighbor said the car was kind of at that location since 2 p.m. the day she went missing, and even more witnesses came forward to the family. There was someone that lived in Campbell's Creek Drive, right near where Melanie had been staying with that van. She had a very specific American flag license plate. That person was in the West End that day and saw the van drive by at around 1 p.m. And that very easily could have been driven by someone that, was responsible for Melanie's disappearance. And I have no idea. And I don't know if anyone knows if authorities gathered any security footage. It seems like there were a lot of different industrial areas on the West End. There was bound to be cameras somewhere. Her car was found in a residential neighborhood. Were any of those homes checked to see if they had security footage? I just find it so odd that so many people see her car all around town all day long, but somehow no one saw when she was attacked, who she may have been attacked by. No one saw who dropped her car off. And despite being all over town, I'm talking like 45 minutes, distance all over the place, there's not footage anywhere that is beneficial to authorities. So at this point, everything went quiet, everything went cold. Authorities essentially stopped working on it, and Sandra and other family members continued on trying to find out what happened to Melanie and some sort of answers, because she now had 3 children that she was abruptly stripped away from, and they deserve to have their mother, and they deserve to know what happened and why. And I know that Donna ended up taking care of and having custody of both Nathan and Hannah, but I've also seen she passed away, and I don't know where they ended up. I know that Ryan obviously stayed with Michael, but I have seen family also complain that he essentially took Melanie being gone as a way to keep Ryan to himself, and he wasn't able to see his other siblings. And there's just so much heartache that has stemmed from this one act that someone decided to take, which was abducting Melanie, and who knows what they did to her. And this right here is just exactly what happens. Is these individuals choose to commit some horrific crime, an act of violence, or something against someone, and it ripples through entire families. It's not just affecting them, it is affecting everybody. And this case, it's so apparent.
And families in small towns, even large towns, but your small towns like this one is, it not only affects the family like deep, like this is their family member, but it affects the town as well. You got to think, in these small towns, it's kind of like Cheers. Everybody knows your name. Everybody knows your business. You know, I'm originally from a small town. It's not a small town anymore. It used to be a small town when I was a kid. It's grown by leaps and bounds. But there's also that you have to take into effect that this affects everyone, because to this day, and just from where we are now in the video, there's somebody out there that's potentially a murderer that's walking free because this was not treated like it should have been. Proper investigation was not done like it should have been.
And it was heartbreaking to see the comment section and see what the family has said, screaming for help. Like, just comment after comment with just help us, please help us in all caps, begging for someone to report on it, begging for someone to say something, someone to help them, authorities to actually do something. For years and years, it puts like the biggest pit in my stomach. But then in 2013, they thought they had a big break. A year prior, in December of 2012, a resident in the Witcher Creek area, which is the same location that authorities searched very
Hope you're having a good
thoroughly,
weekend, Coco. Welcome
right
in.
after Melanie went missing, within like a couple of days, resident called into police stating they had just witnessed a forceful abduction of a woman. Authorities were able to track down the perpetrators to a woman named Cindy Creethers and her boyfriend, Joey Jeffrey, who was a known drug dealer. Obviously, initially,
So here is where that plot twist that I was telling you about, you guys that are coming in. And again, I'm not putting guilt on these 2 individuals, and neither is she, that we're going to hear about now, but open your ears. We want to listen, not hear. This is what made me scratch my head and go, You know, those things that make you go,
This is an entirely unrelated case. They were thinking they were just going to bring in both of these individuals. They were going to press charges against them. It was going to go to trial and yada, yada, yada. But they ended up being able to get Cindy to crack pretty quickly, which led to a plea deal, which essentially gave her 5 years in prison in return for her testimony against Joey Jeffrey. And they waited a year for this testimony, again, not thinking there was any sort of connection here. But when she got on stand, everything took a turn. The actions that they took in the abduction of a woman named Leanne Quinn, who, interestingly enough, was Joey Jeffrey's own cousin. So he abducted and threatened forcefully his own cousin over a drug debt. So while explaining everything that was going on, she explained that at one point he did make a verbal threat to her. And he said, "Do you remember Melanie Metheny? I will put you in the same hole that I put her in."
Such a beautiful girl. Such a beautiful girl, guys. I just wanted to pause that for a moment, let her beautiful face be on screen, which we're not done here. We're going to look at some other stuff that I was able to dig up as well.
Clearly, this took everyone back. According to Cindy, he said that he would have done it, but he just didn't have enough gas to get there. And I think it even made her question if he was in fact responsible for the disappearance and apparently alleged murder of Melanie Metheny. So authorities, after the trial, wanted to sit down and question him. And I believe they did, but it ended up, from my understanding, going nowhere. They did label him as a person of interest, but he has never been arrested for it. He has never cracked and brought forward any more information. And so a lot of people started to wonder if he maybe just used that as like a threat. Like, he never actually had anything to do with Melanie's disappearance, but he just used it to try to scare the crap out of a woman that was local because everyone local knew about Melanie. There are a lot of things that are hard to ignore. For instance, the fact that this was something that occurred in Witcher Creek, which multiple individuals called into authorities about Witcher Creek in regards to Melanie's disappearance. He also forcibly abducted a woman, and if the SUV was in fact holding Melanie, obviously we have a forceful abduction here, and that's something that's believed to have happened to her anyways. We also have that this woman was attacked over a drug debt, and then there's also the fact that Melanie was in the West End that day, and it has been questioned if she was somehow introduced to drugs or was involved in drugs more than everyone thought because of her new boyfriend. I'm not saying that he did drugs because I don't know, but there's a lot of speculation out there that maybe she
Welcome,
kind of
MB.
shifted and
You
got
are
involved in
so
things she wasn't used
loved.
to being involved in. Maybe she was trying to protect someone. Maybe she was going to pay off a debt or something, or she owed a debt and someone came after her. But as I said, this is all just speculation, and he has not claimed, from my understanding since then, to have been involved in her disappearance. Now, I do know that there are a lot of people that believe she was not, again, involved in drugs because her family said she was not heavily involved in drugs. There were rumors going around that she owed someone a certain amount of money. I believe it was around $300. She was saving up money, and according to some, had she ever been in a position where she owed someone money and it became a life or death situation, she would, in the money she had saved for housing, been able to pay something off. She didn't have tons and tons of money saved up, but she had to get herself out of something like a $300 drug debt. And also, a $300 drug debt is not likely going to end in the disappearance and presumed murder of someone, at least not most of the time. So no one was quite sure what to believe, but it definitely did spark a light under this theory that drugs could potentially be involved in her disappearance. And this seems to be one of the larger theories that the family believes, that something was going on. Everything seemed to go downhill and change drastically when she met Jared. No one knows if she maybe was just introduced to a new crowd that was involved in drugs, because all these same people all of a sudden fell off the map the second she disappeared. Just all seems so suspicious, and it seems like everyone is just hiding something. Her family has stated that a lot of the times when Harley would be dropped off at the grandparents' house, that sometimes Nathan and Hannah would be watched by them as well. So the fact that she dropped Harley off there but made it a point to take her kids to the safety of something like a daycare makes the family really wonder if someone was watching her. Again, we know she may have been paranoid or worried about something that day because she had asked for someone to be with her. I personally think the whole U-turn in the middle of nowhere while heading to, the Midland Avenue house is strange. Did she see someone following her? I know all of these people are, told to look for Melanie's car. Did you see Melanie's car? Do you remember seeing her car? But I wonder if anyone remembers seeing someone following her. I have unfortunately been in a circumstance where I have been followed before, and it also makes
And I'm totally with her on that. Like, we'll hear in these cases, we'll hear detectives, we'll hear law enforcement say that one of your worst witnesses is an eyewitness because of human error. However, I would be curious to know too, did somebody see somebody following her? Earlier in the video, we heard about the U-turn that she made. Did she feel like somebody was following her? Did she see somebody that maybe gave her that feeling deep in her gut that she was being followed? I don't know, guys.
makes me wonder if that's why she was on the West End that day. Maybe she did for some reason have plans to go to the career center because, again, that would be a safe place for her to go, surrounded by lots of different people. So even if she had taken the transcripts already and she didn't need them, if she felt like she wasn't safe, that could be a good public place to go to be safe. But if she's being followed and notices that, she likely will just keep passing by so she doesn't have to stop alone in a parking lot. Did she just keep driving and keep driving? And that's why she ended up in the West End. I wonder if she made this phone call to recommend it, if it was her, because she wanted it to look like she was on the phone talking to somebody. Unfortunately, there are just so many ways that I feel this could go, but it seems pretty believed that someone was either following her, stalking her for some reason, and that is what happened. It could possibly be someone that was close to her and knew what her plans were that day, because the car was in fact left near the career center, only a few minutes away, and I don't think that someone would kidnap her in West End, just coincidentally drop her car off near where she was saying she was going anyways. One wiping the prints off the car as well indicates to me that this person was potentially a criminal already, or this had been very planned, which also makes me agree with the fact that she was being stalked or followed, or she did owe someone a debt, and this person knew exactly how they were going to get rid of her silently. I don't know. I don't know what to believe. All I know is that it's still an unsolved case, and there are still 3 children out there wondering what happened to their mother. The families had to do so much of this fighting on their own, which makes absolutely no sense to me. I'm devastated that PIs have backed off the case and that, the FBI can't seem to get a hold of the investigation. I just hope that a lot of these individuals and her family fighting so hard in her case to figure out what exactly happened to her, I hope that they get the answers that they deserve. And I hope that someone's able to get their hands on this case and they are able to figure out what happened, or hopefully someone's conscience gets the best of them and they start talking. There's a lot of people out there who have answers and they're getting older, and hopefully they will eventually crack, realizing that they are absolutely tearing apart a family. But that is all that I have for you guys today. If you have any opinions or theories,
Okay, so that was an amazing video that I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. She had some really good informative information on there. Oh, come on. Okay, here we go. So we're going to share this next. This is a news article. This is actually a newer news article. It says the search continues for missing woman for 15 years. Now, this was from 2021. Okay, so we're going to let this play. Of course, there's going to be an ad. So I did drop her link in the chat. It was used under fair use. And again, I do appreciate everything that she put. I mean, just amazing. Amazing when, you know, and it always does my heart good to see the bigger creators. Now, there's Blip, guys. Love Blip. Speaking of Blip, Ellen's billboard is still up for those of y'all that were here for Ellen Greenberg. Okay, here we go.
New at 11, it's a story we've been following for you since the very beginning. 15 years ago was the day the Kanawha County mother of three, Melanie Metheny, disappeared. Hasn't been seen since. Her family feels like she wouldn't have just gotten up and left, because her life was centered around those three kids, and she was set to go back to school. Eyewitness News reporter Danielle Dindak with the latest on the investigation tonight after speaking with family members of Melanie's who still haven't given up hope of finding her. Danielle.
Rick, the family says 15 years later and their pain hasn't stopped, and it won't until they find Melanie.
We all love you. Know that we are looking for you, and we have not given up.
15 years later, and one question still haunts many. Where is Melanie Metheny?
It feels like a long time, but it also feels like yesterday.
July 19th, 2006, Melanie, a mother of three, dropped her kids off at daycare, but she never picked them up, nor was she heard from or seen again.
15 years later, and we're still at, we're kind of at square one. Just been nothing either way to show what could have happened, other than, one day she just disappeared.
Deputies with the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office began an investigation that day, and frankly, the investigation has remained open ever since.
What now seems like the biggest break in the case came 4 days after her disappearance, when Melanie's van was found parked on the west side of Charleston, her purse and cell phone gone.
We didn't have the ability to go and canvass a neighborhood and get cell phones from any doorbell camera. We didn't have all of the associates of the person who's gone missing to be able to go and get their cell phones and ask them for some permission to check and see what messages she left them.
Her case has changed hands at the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office several times.
We don't classify this as a cold case. We still get tips from time to time about it. Every lead that we've received has been thoroughly investigated, and that continues with any leads that we get.
We've been very lucky with our detectives and the police force. They've chased down leads all up and down the East Coast.
Bill Daniel never got the chance to meet his stepdaughter Melanie in person, but since the beginning, he has never stopped searching for her.
Getting ready to take these nursing classes to have a better life, to better provide for her children.
He, along with deputies, believe someone out there holds the key to this puzzle and knows where Melanie is.
This is somebody's life, and it's affecting so many other people's lives in a negative way, and whoever has that information can bring closure to a lot of loved ones.
And if you have any information about Melanie's disappearance, no matter how small you might think that tip might be, please call the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office, and we have that number on our screen. Live in the newsroom, Danielle Dindak, Eyewitness News.
Minutes. I'm over here talking. I'm on mute. All right, so we're going to make this one small so it can load. I'm going to run through chat. Again, thank you for everybody for being here. See Biggie Williams. Oh, why is it not pulling up my comment? There it goes. The people that dropped out after she disappeared, are they still in the area or simply moved away? So some of the people probably are still in the area, but we do know that a couple people did move away. Hello, FarQ. Thank you for coming in, honey. Good to see you. Yes, swiped her car clean. Is that what she said? That's what the investigation brought, that the car was wiped clean at 6:09 a.m. Ooh, girl, I ain't seen 6:09 a.m. in a long time. Thank you for coming in, honey. Miss Barbara says, I would think if she knew she was being followed, I would drive right to the police station. You know, and again, if she, and this is just me speculating as much as I hate to do so, if she had got in with the wrong crowd with the new boyfriend and possibly had, you know, drugs on her or something else, that could possibly be why she didn't go to the police station. There's Frankie. Thank you for coming in. Right. It's extremely sad, girls. It is extremely sad. I couldn't even imagine the feeling of not knowing. It's horrible. Right. Right. That's what we're looking at now, is that we heard that this is not considered a cold case, but I'm going to show you guys the police department's website and the information that's on there. And sadly, okay, I'll check it after the live, honey. Thank you, Ace's mama. Let's see if this is loaded up yet. Looks like it has. What is going on? There it goes. And of course, we're going to have an ad here. Hopefully, it'll go by pretty quickly. I would like to hope that they are maybe using some newer technology. I know this was in 2006, so they were able to ping her phone. But as far as like cameras and stuff like that, you know, I wasn't able to find anything that said that they actually had any footage of her.
It's one of the most recognized and talked about cold cases here in Kanawha County, the mysterious disappearance of Melanie Metheny. This week marks 16 years since the mother of three was last seen alive.
Eyewitness News reporter Leslie Rubin talked with Melanie's family about the struggles for clear answers, and this latest Eyewitness News investigates cold case files.
Melanie Metheny's disappearance is nowhere closer to being solved today than it was 16 years ago. Last seen dropping her children off at daycare in Bell. Her case is one of dead-end leads and never-ending tales and theories about what could have happened to her. But behind those stories is a family determined to find the truth. It's here beside Coonskin Pond that Catherine Moles comes to think about her niece, Melanie Metheny, who would be 37 today.
That's part of this long process, bracing yourself for the worst, but hoping for the best.
A ginkgo biloba tree continues to grow as the years pass. They call it Melanie's tree, but the pain for everyone who comes to visit is as fresh as it was on July 19th, 2006.
My sister called me in the evening and said that they can't find Melanie.
Melanie was 21 then, a young mother of three determined to give her kids the life she knew they deserved. She decided she was going to be a nurse, and that morning her plan was to go to Garnet Career Center to get transcripts and take them to West Virginia State.
She was supposed to be picking up school transcripts, and she didn't make it. No one saw her at Garnet.
Around 8 o'clock that morning, she dropped her children off at Country Kids Daycare in Bell. It was the last time detectives with the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office can confirm she was alive.
It's verified that Melanie herself dropped her children off. Daycare workers reported that she seemed just normal as usual, nothing concerning to them. But what had tipped the family off later in the day was the fact that she had failed to pick her kids up at daycare.
Her dad, James Metheny, was the first to report her missing that night. Also missing was Melanie's 1998 Chevy van. Family members and rescue crews with canine units searched the woods and areas near Campbell's Creek where she lived part-time with her boyfriend.
She's been missing for over 48 hours, and anyone that has any type of information that saw her Wednesday evening, please call the number.
A break in the case came on day 4.
On July 23rd, her vehicle was located around Wyoming Street and Beering Avenue, which is on the west side of Charleston.
But there was nothing inside that helped detectives at all. Things that should have been there, like her purse and cell phone, weren't. and there were no signs of a struggle.
That's something that really has always bothered me and I've questioned. It was parked on an intersection at a corner on the west side. And her van had been plastered all over the news for several days, but no one reported that van.
Catherine wonders how long the van was really there and why it was found where it was. If it had been there for 4 days, why didn't anyone report it? The discovery only adding to the frustration and questions investigators had too.
You have to wonder, did she go missing from that vehicle? Did someone else deposit the vehicle there and it wasn't Melanie? It poses all kinds of new questions.
Phone records indicated Melanie checked her voicemail around 9:30 the morning she went missing, and that she called an auto repair shop shortly after dropping her children off at daycare to confirm she had an appointment in the coming days. Tips poured in too. One person claiming he may have seen Melanie in a red SUV on the west side fighting with someone on the afternoon of her disappearance.
That witness had reported around the time that Melanie had gone missing, he observed a red SUV, and there were two individuals in the SUV, and they were arguing, and he thought he heard the female yell something about babies.
But they were never able to confirm if it was Melanie or find that SUV. The investigation leading to more than 200 interviews. There were countless searches of mines, mine shafts, and other places people pointed them to, but there's never been a confirmed suspect in the case.
To say that there has been a named suspect, no. Have there been many names and some of the same names brought up over the years? Yes.
The pain led Catherine to start working with families of missing people from all around the state to help in any way she can, even if it's just to listen or help spread the word of a missing loved one.
Be about 15 minutes, I believe is what was said. In between, I'm going to pull it out. This isn't going to be the only live I do. I'm going to pull a bunch more information. This was what I call an initial live on the channel, just to get her name on the channel and hopefully get some other creators, advocates, people here in our community to grab a hold of her case and see if we can't get together, pull some resources, and get some answers for this family.
She keeps a list of them all.
No matter what they do, what their status is in the society, they're people, their family are human beings that have feelings, and everyone deserves to be found.
That's the thing about these tragedies. There's so many victims. Shattered lives of family members left as collateral damage, just trying to find peace.
I was trying to find a good word to describe how people feel, because it's really hard. And that word just sort of summed it all up in one word.
The word is Portuguese, saudade, a yearning for happiness that is past or perhaps never even existed.
A longing for something or some event that one is fond of, which is gone, but might return in a distant future.
Melanie's family started Melanie's Hope, a charitable organization that is dedicated to raising awareness about missing people, but also supports animal rescue, something that was important to Melanie. Her mother's husband, Bill, knows that peace they're searching for will only come when they find the truth.
1, 2, 3. Don't give up hope if you're in our situation. Look for the light, and if you know something, say something, tell somebody. Don't care who you are, just need the information.
But with each agonizing anniversary, Catherine says she'll wait, knowing one day that truth will come.
A lot of people give up. We don't. One day we will find her.
If you have any information that could help find Melanie, call the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office. Their number 304-357-0169. Right now on our website, you can find more information about the investigation and old stories from deep inside the Eyewitness News archives. Just go to WCHSTV.com. Reporting in the studio.
Okay, so now we're going to take a look. This is the Facebook page. I'm going to drop that in chat, guys. I encourage you, you can't follow the Facebook page because of the way they have it set up, but if you go and like it, you should get updates when they come through. And Meta Mom, welcome in, honey. You're good. Thank you. Crime Time with Mama Bear. Thank you so much. Can one of my mods grab her link? I don't have her in Nightbot yet. I need to put a bunch of channels in Nightbot. Somebody grab her link and drop it for me, please, if I have a mod still in here. Please and thank you. But this is the Facebook group. The link is in there. So you guys can see that 2022. So hopefully if we can start pushing her case back out. And, you know, I was going to make her a flyer. But guys, these that are in her group are so amazing that I didn't even make her one, because some of these are just amazing. And then there's a lot of photos of her in here. And photos of the kids. And like I said earlier in the live, guys, she was a loving mother with so much life. You know, so much life. I don't know if far Q. I don't know if she can drop links or not. Let me go grab Mama Bear's link real quick, guys. We'll get back to the story. Let me go ahead and grab your link. Because I don't know. Far just woke up, so I don't want to put that on her with her just waking up. Y'all, it is 6 o'clock in the morning in Australia. You're good, Far. I don't want to put that on you, honey. I know you just woke up, and I don't want to cause you to have to function too much. Normally, I have everybody in the Nightbot. I'll put Mama Bear in the Nightbot and Salty that way. Those are easy to grab as well. You are so welcome, hun. Thank you for being here, and thank you, Miss Barbara, for sharing. You just like the page, and I'm following. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You are not a useless mod. You are my favorite mod. Nobody take offense to that. Far as my day one, she has been here. Thor? Well, hello, sir. I know you work a lot. Thor's usually on our replay crew. You know, all my mods are my loves. Far as my very first mod. And I love her dearly. You're all my favorites. But Far has been around for the whole shebang here. She's been with me for 4 years. And then we've added to the family. All right, so we're going to take a look at this. This is the Charlie Project. Guys, you know, I don't push donations over here for the channel, but I do push donations for projects that deserve those donations. The Charlie Project does amazing work. They are strictly... Am I muted? No, okay. Sorry, guys, I have to check. I'm outside and the sun gets to my brain. But I'm gonna read this off to you guys because I know it's kind of small on the I love my Aussies too. Far as my Aussie sister. Let's see. He says, I've been around. I subbed at number 4. Love you too, honey. So I remember back in the day when I was like, look, I got 3 subs and 2 of them's not me and you. To Mr. Monster, aka Mr. Sunshine. All right. So this is Melanie Metheny, and her pictures, of course, are what I used on the thumbnail. Full credit does go to the Charlie Foundation. She's been missing since July 19, 2006 from Bell, West Virginia. She's considered in danger and missing. She's female, white, date of birth is 6/21/1985. So for those of y'all that don't know, my birthday's 6/25. So, you know, there's always that one little piece of connection. She was 5'3" and 100 pounds. Associated vehicle was gold and 1998 Chevrolet minivan with the West Virginia license plate number. U is in uniform, S is in Sierra, 8255. It is accounted for, and there is allegedly a red SUV that could possibly have been involved. We did hear that in both of those. She is Caucasian female, brown hair, brown eyes. Metheny has a surgical scar on her left ankle. Her ears are pierced, and she smokes Sonoma cigarettes. And the information is in here. There's also some great links that are in here for source information. We have Name Us. Let's see. You have the Help Find Metheny website. It looks like it's down. WOWK13. There's the local news source that we watched. Texas EquiSearch apparently helped in her search as well. While I'm here, I'm going to grab their link, which I know most of us are aware who they are, but I am going to drop their link in chat as well. So there's that in chat. Let's get that out of here. America's Most Wanted and the Charleston Daily. Okay. So next we are going to look at this. This has pictures of her kids on there. So I don't think I'm going to share this because we've seen enough photos of the kids that, they're not the same age anymore, but I just don't feel comfortable sharing that. But I'll make sure it's in the description. So we're going to share this tab instead. And this is a rundown of her case. This is on the morning of Wednesday, July 19, 2006. Melanie Metheny left her residence in Campbell's Creek with two of her children and the child of her current boyfriend. It is believed that she dropped off the boyfriend's child between 7:30 and 8 a.m. at the home of the child's parental grandmother in the Dry Branch area of Campbell's Creek, and then continued to the county kids daycare located at 3000 block of DuPont Avenue in Bell. So we heard that that's kind of like there's conflicting stories to that. There she dropped off the two children between 7:50 and 8 a.m. Friends and family and daycare workers said that Melanie told them she was going to Garnett Career College in Charleston that day to pick up her transcripts and deliver them to West Virginia State College, where she intended to start class. Melanie never returned to pick up the children from daycare. According to Melanie's cell phone records, she placed two calls between 9 and 9:30 that morning, one which was to her voicemail, and both calls have been placed to Western Kanawha, and I'm probably saying that wrong, and Eastern Putnam County areas. A check was done at West Virginia State College in Garnett, and no contact was made with Melanie that day. Melanie's van, a 1998 gold Chevrolet Venture van, was located 4 days later, July 23rd, 2006, and parked at the street of the residential area in Wyoming Street and Burling Avenue on the west side of Charleston. One of the witnesses in the area said that the van had been parked there since around afternoon, July 19, 2006. Melanie's purse and cell phone, debit card, food stamps were not found inside the vehicle. There has been no activity on either cards. Melanie was 21 years old when she went missing. She has long strawberry blonde hair, brown eyes, 5'3", approximately 100 pounds. She did not have any tattoos, but has a scar on her lower right leg and ankle and a plate and 2 screws that she received in a car accident. Melanie is a mother of 3 children. Their ages at the time of disappearance was 1, 3, and 5 years old. Since the time of her reported missing, Kanawha County Sheriff's Office has expended numerous man-hours conducting, receives hundreds of tips since her disappearance, and conducted follow-up investigations on each tip. We actively follow up on any leads that are brought to our attention. We know that someone in the public has information that could lead us to the closure of this case. We would ask for anyone with information in this case to call the Kanawha County Sheriff's Office tip line at 304-357-4693. All calls can be anonymous and information will be kept confidential. Detective S.D. Farrell is the case agent handling the investigation. Tips may also be forwarded to Detective Farrell's email address at Sam, S-A-M, Farrell, F-E-R-R-E-L-L, at kcso.us. All right, guys, I'm going to take a pause on this real quick. I'm going to run Eric's video. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, everybody, for being patient. My laptop's dying, so I'm going to pop inside. But in the meantime, because it'll only take me a couple minutes to get the laptop plugged in, I'm going to run this video, guys.
I stand on this mountain and I look down and see a world I was once underneath. I stand on this mountain and I look down. My mind is more than
I don't think I had any audio to that, so let's try that again. We're going to do video file.
I stand on this mountain and I look down and see a world
You hear
I
the
was
music?
once
Okay, cool.
underneath.
I don't hear it on my
Stand
side, so
on
hopefully
this
you guys.
mountain and I look down. My mind knows more than it once knew. Then I knew. Then I knew. Then I knew. Then I knew. Now you're here. You're here. You're there. You're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be than found missing. Found missing. I climb down this mountain and I look around just to see that everyone used to be me. I climb down this mountain and I look around, my mind embracing more than the truth, than the truth, than the truth, than the truth, than the truth. Now you're here, you're here, you're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be than found missing. Found missing. I once was blind, but now I see the beauty of the world before me. Now you're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be. Now you're here, you're there. Now everywhere with me. If this is lost, then there's no place I'd rather be than found missing. missing, found missing.
All right, guys. So this is what happens when you let the laptop die. So hopefully everything's still playing when I get in here. Yeah. So we're good. I lost connection. So I'm gonna kick myself out. So it's just me. Okay. All right, guys. So that was my best friend's music. Thank you guys for hanging out here. So the laptop died. So I appreciate everybody that hung out long enough for me to get everything back up and running. So let's go ahead and we're going to share the Sheriff's Department's website. Pull that up. Is it this? Nope, it's this one. Okay, so this is their website. Unsolved cases. Melanie Metheny. The Kanawha County Sheriff's Office works unsolved missing persons and homicide cases to conclusion. Each of these cases is listed on the website and being worked by a detective, a brief, and that is literally it. So that's a little disheartening. Right, there was two of me. It's because I jumped on my phone. I jumped on my phone. So that way the stream wouldn't just sit here and spin. Thank you guys for all being here. It is heartbreaking. Thor, I'm so happy to have you in here, honey. I know you work all the time. Thor said, I agree, Barbara Hall, but thanks to people like Mom, they live on and hopefully we'll have answers one day to what happened. Absolutely. Absolutely. B says, unfortunately, I think my internet isn't very strong today because a lot of it is blurry. It could be mine because I'm in the middle of the swamp too. So that's definitely part of possibly what it is. And if everybody would please like, subscribe, and share if you haven't already. I do appreciate everybody that came in and listened to Metheny's story. It really meant a lot to me that one of my subs took time out of their life and to care enough to bring me her story so that way we could all learn about her story and learn about who she was, a loving mom, someone who was trying to better her life with nursing school and trying to move on and have a better life and have something for her kids. She was putting back money. So like I said earlier in the video, it's just really sad when these people take it upon themselves to take someone else's life that's not theirs to take. So it's very disheartening. It is absolutely disheartening, guys. So this is a small town in West Virginia. No matter how big or how small the town is, all missing matter, all these cases matter, and I appreciate you guys for always being here, being supportive, and being a part of my community. This case is absolutely just it's one, like I said, it's one of those cases that make you scratch your head. Where how many cases do we see that are small town corruption, small town secrets? You know, you have the law enforcement that doesn't want the FBI to come in. You have, you have families that go years and years and years and years and years without answers, and it's not fair to these families. And yet, even though we have some great, amazing creators here on this platform, we have so many of those big creators that could do so much more with their platform. And just show more faces instead of just getting stuck on that one case that brings clicks and views. Maybe, you know, take the time to do stuff like I do. I actually, you know, I sometimes when you see those trending Twitter posts that's got like a million different views on it, you know, throw a missing poster in there. What are they going to do? Spank you for sharing a missing poster? Come on. Threaten me with a good time. You know, just however we can get their faces and their names out there and be able to share these families. And, you know, why do I have, oh, I done screwed that all up. What in the hell is wrong with my Nightbot? So that is not Clue's link. That's Truth's link. I wonder if I put, dude, you know what I bet I did? This is why I shouldn't put stuff in Nightbot when I'm half asleep. I bet, guys, that I put them in backwards. What do y'all want to bet? I'm going to say that that's probably a good possibility of what happened. I bet Clue's links under Truth's. Ha ha. Let me see. I bet anything that's what I did. Wow. What the hell? See, this is why I shouldn't YouTube when I'm half asleep, guys. Or not necessarily YouTube when I'm half asleep. Maybe I shouldn't like try to put in freaking channels in Nightbot when I'm half asleep. But I was trying to get it all updated, and apparently I did that all wrong. So if you guys click on that link that's in there, it's going to take you to Truth. But we're going to fix that real quick. And we're going to make it take you to Clue, which I know probably everybody in here is already subbed up to Clue. But we definitely want to make sure that we show her some love. So we're going to do that again. So it pulls up the right one. Or Amazon. Facts. No Amazon when you're sleeping either. Dude, Mama Bear, if I don't screw up at least one thing during a live, like it's not alive. Like seriously, it's not alive if I don't like mute myself at least once, or a dog jump in my lap and rip my headphones out or something. Okay, so that command. Oh, looky there. There's Clue. Doggo should be above that. We did put True Crime Time with Mama Bear in here, and I'll get Nightbot updated, and that way I have everybody in here on the updated one. Frankie's link should be up here too in chat, guys. I appreciate everybody for being here, spending your Saturday with me. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. We will be going and taking thank you so much. Yep, everybody subscribe. We will be taking Maddie's cactuses to her memorial tomorrow. I was going to do it last weekend, but the advocate that is Maddie's main advocate that's you know, that's been working with some family members and like working close with family members, she actually wants to meet, so we rescheduled it till this weekend so that way we could actually meet each other in person. So make sure that you do hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, because you guys know I randomly go live, and I will go live from YouTube because the last time I tried to go live from StreamYard going out that way, StreamYard does not like the choppy signal out there. So we're going to do the YouTube live. I won't be able to pull up everybody's comments, but you will be able to see everybody's comments on the screen. And guys, as always, remember, if you see something, say something. Never give up. It takes a village to raise a child. You're not alone. And don't forget our missing. Thank you guys for all being here. I appreciate you, each and every one. You guys mean the world to me. And you know that normal people don't do the things that we see or do. You know, normal people don't do the things that we see here in this community. We know that people that are seeking light are not.
Isn't that special? Could have been. Let's see, I don't know. Let me think. Let me knock on Mr. Noggin. Who could trick us into could have been. Let's see, I don't know. Let me think. Let me knock on Mr. Noggin. Who could trick us into doing that? Could have been Satan.
I don't know what the hell I did to my StreamYard, y'all, but now I can't hear, so that's really aggravating. I'll reset the laptop. Hopefully that will fix it.